So over the weekend, I was working on one of my side projects. It's this goal tracking app, and you can check off goals. And I wanted to add a way to show some history. So I added this little button that brings up this calendar and kind of shows you all of your goals for the past 2 months here. And I made this calendar using Tailwind UI and date-fns, which is a great library for helping render dates, and Framer Motion for these animated bars. And, I finished writing this feature in just a couple hours, having it all wired up and everything. And I realized that I never reached for a date library. And that's something that I would normally do because dates are pretty complex. But I was so jazzed about kind of building this and making it want to look exactly how I wanted it to look that I just started working with the primitives I already had, and it was a lot of fun. Then I started working on some other calendars, making them animated using Framer Motion, all sorts of stuff, and thought it would be fun to just show you kind of a basic run through of basically turning one of Tailwind UI's calendars into a real interactive component in React using the date-fns library. And so that's what we're going to do today. And if you haven't heard of Tailwind UI, it's a set of premium components that you can get that are based off of Tailwind, which is the CSS library I use. And they have a whole calendar section. Down here at the bottom, we'll see this nice borderless side-by-side design, and this is exactly what we're going to be building today. Now, Tailwind UI is a set of paid components, and so I did ask Adam over at Tailwind Labs if I could use this for the video and share the source code online, and he said I could. So big thanks to him for that. But this is basically what we're going to do. We have our brand new app right here. This happens to be a Next app, but we're just going to be doing simple client-side React today. I'm going to come over here and grab the React code. And then we can paste this right in, save it, and we'll see the component right here. So this is a pretty awesome starting point. We've got all of our dates right here. We have some events, which are wired up with a headless UI menu right here. But you'll see nothing works. I can't actually click on anything. And so that's what we're going to work on today. So first, let's come over and just wrap this in a few more divs here to give us some breathing room. And let's get started making this dynamic. So I'm going to search for January 2022. And I want to start by making this the current month. So the date-fns library, if you haven't seen it, is an amazing library that's really part of what makes all of this possible without having to use kind of a calendar library. It gives us all sorts of functions, and this is exactly what we're going to be using today. So there is a start of today function that we can use to get today. And then we can just replace this with format from date-fns today. And we'll just use the current full month and the current full year. So there we go, May 2022. And again, we're going to be using a lot of imports from here, but that's what the library import looks like. Okay, next, let's actually talk about how to get these days. So if we scroll down to where these are rendered, we'll see we're mapping over an array of days, and then we render a button and the actual day for each one. And so these days, the data structure that is just copy and pasted from Tailwind UI looks like this. This array kind of has a date key and then other keys for other properties, but we just need the actual days. So we're going to use this really handy method called each day of interval from date-fns. This takes in a start date and an end date. And for now, let's just get the beginning of the month to the end of the current month based on today here. So the start date will be start of month of today, and the end date will be end of month of today. And this will be our new days right here. Now let's just go ahead and log out new days and take a look. And we'll see here we have an array of date objects for May 2022. Now let's come over to where we're mapping our days, and let's change this to new days. So we're going to get some errors because our data format is different, but let's comment all these kind of conditional class names. Let's just pass in day.toString for the key. And then for the actual day, we can use format of the day, and we'll just get the current day. So right here, we're rendering 31 days of May. Now, if we look at this attribute, this was also a formatted string, so we can format our day with YYYYMMDD. And if we come over here and inspect one of these, we should see it now has the right date time attribute. Okay, so we're rendering our days, but you'll notice that the calendar starts on Monday. And in my case, I just want it to start on Sunday. So we can change that right here. This is one of the things I love most about working just with Tailwind and, low-level utility libraries like date-fns. I have complete control over this UI. So we want this calendar to start on Sunday, and now we have it. And it turns out that May 1st is on a Sunday. So this is not dynamic yet. It happens to line up. Let's wait until we run into a bug to actually fix that part. But this is looking pretty good now. And if we wanted to fill in the rest of this week here, we can just come to our end key of our interval. And right now, this is the 31st. Let's go ahead and bring that to the end of the week with end of week. And this is another import. And look at that. We got all of the week filled using these days from June. Okay, now let's come and look at the conditional styling. The Tailwind folks did all this work to have all these different cases handled, but we don't have these properties. We can replace them with date-fns. So I'm going to grab all of the day is today, and we're going to replace this with is today day. Look at that. We've got our indigo showing us today. Instead of indigo, let's make this red 500. Looks pretty good. Now, what about is current month? Let's grab all of these and replace it with is same month. Another super handy function from date-fns. We're going to compare the day to today. Look at that. We've got all of the current month as gray 900, and then June here is showing as gray 400. Okay, and last, to show a selected state, because these are buttons, and so the idea is you can click on them to see the meetings for the selected day. Let's come up to our component, and let's add a selected day, set selected day, which is just going to be some React state. We can actually seed this with today, so when you start, the selected day is today. And then down here, to check if the day is selected, we're actually going to use an isEqual function from date-fns, and we're going to compare the day that we're looping over right now with the selected day in React state. And this makes sure to just compare the date and time of these things rather than using object identity with triple equals. This is a little bit safer to use. And now we can see that today is getting the style treatment for the selected day. So this is pretty neat. If you've never used this library before, these kind of helper functions, they follow a really consistent naming scheme. So once you spend just a little bit of time with this, you start being able to guess all these APIs. And I was pretty blown away when I did this in my own app, just how easy it was to make it all dynamic, but we're not done yet. Okay, next, let's make it so we can click on this and actually update the selected day. So this is going to be an on click. Let's go ahead and set the selected day to the day that we're looping over. And now we should be able to select different days. Pretty cool. All the styling treatment from Tailwind UI is coming over, and this is looking really nice. Okay, May is looking good. Let's go ahead and implement these next and previous month buttons. And these are right here. And we'll start with this one for next month. So let's say onClick equals next month. Let's come up and we'll write a function next month. And this needs to toggle some state as well. So right now we're just showing the month of today, but we actually want to be able to toggle that. Let's just say what the current month is going to be some React state, set current month. And the data format for this, let's use something like May 2022. This is really all we need to know to put us in May 2022. And if it's a simple string, maybe we could put it in the URL or do something like that. So this seems like a reasonable way to store the current month for now. And so I'm actually going to format today and we'll pass in mmm-yyyy. Let's go ahead and log the current month. Take a look in the console, and there we see May 2022. So that's a nice little key for the current month. And now here we want to increment that to the next month. So we can parse the current month, which is going to come from date-fns. Take the current month, and we'll pass it the format of mmm-yyyy. Then we'll give this a new date object. This is going to give us the first day of the current month, which we can then call add on to add months 1. So this is another super handy method from date-fns. Let's just do interval math on dates, but this is going to be enough to give us the first day of the next month. And now we can just call set current month to this same format function up here. But we'll just pass in the next month's date. So if we come over and hit next, we don't actually see anything. But if we look, we will see that our current month is being updated. So now we really want to derive the name of the month and all the days of the month from the current date. We are doing it from today. So let's start with the actual month title. Instead of today, we want to use the first day of the current month. That's right here. Let's go ahead and move this out. Right here, it's just going to be a new property derived from this state. And if we throw this right here, now we've got that showing. Let's use the full name of the month. And boom, just like that. Okay, now how about these dates? Instead of always showing May, let's start with the first day of the current month, which means we actually don't even need the start of month here anymore. And then let's go ahead and grab the end of month based on that first day. So now if we click next, we're seeing some new days being rendered. But now they're out of sync. This is when we can actually come and make their placement dynamic. So if we refresh and start on May, we'll see that June 1st is on a Wednesday. So if we come here, June 1st should actually be rendering right here. Let's come down to where we're rendering our days, and we'll see that they're being rendered in a grid with column 7. Well, Tailwind actually has a call start set of utility classes that we can use to push these further along based on when they're starting. So we can see here when we're iterating over the days, we get the index. We could add a conditional class that says if the index is 0, so if we're rendering the first day, well, then we can add something like a call start 4. And check that out, that's going to push it right to Wednesday, which is pretty cool. But we don't always want it to start on Wednesday. We need to calculate this. Fortunately, date-fns has our back here. There is a getDay function, which takes in a date. So we'll pass in the day we're looping over. And this is going to return a number 0 through 6 corresponding to the day of the week on which this day falls. So now if we come down to the bottom, let's define a new variable called start classes. And if the day falls on Sunday, we don't need anything. But if it starts on Monday, we want it to start in the second column. That's Monday. So Tuesday would be 3, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So now if we come back to getDay, we should just be able to pass this index in to our new call start classes array. And check that out. We've got June 1st on Wednesday. There we see July 1st should be on Friday. And that's working great. So that's another pretty handy function. Let's go ahead and refresh. We see we still have some styling issues. I think right now we're checking a lot of this against the selected day, but we really want to look at the first day of the month. So the text white is based on the selected day, and so is the red. But the text being gray 900 is currently looking at today to see if it's in the same month. Really, this should be the first day of the current month. And same with this check against today. And let's take a look at June. Now it looks like we're getting the correct rendering. The days in the current month are black and the next month are gray. So this is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and get the previous button working. We'll grab this, make this previous month. And this is going to be this function right here. And all we're going to have to do is we can just add -1 months and check that out. Now we can go back and forward. Pretty neat. Let's make a few more changes here. We see the border is being added. Let's go ahead and delete that. Kind of looks nice without it. And then you'll remember at the beginning, we added the extra days to the end of the week right up here with our each day of interval. If we go ahead and delete that, now we just see the days in the current month, which is also pretty nice, pretty clean look. But I just love how easy this is to change. You know, we can add those back just like this. And we could even add start of week to this first day and fill in the days from the previous month. So look, just once you kind of get used to this library, it's super easy to customize. And yeah, this is looking really good. Okay, last thing I want to do is wire up these events so that they actually show for the day that they are in. And right now it's just kind of static right here. So let's take a look at our data. We see we have kind of a start and a start date time. We should be able to derive everything from the date time. So I'll go ahead and save that. Let's go ahead and get rid of these old days. And I'm just going to rename these to days, since that's what we're using now. And let's look for meetings. And now let's actually update this to be dynamic. So we're just working with start date time, which is this string. date-fns has a parse ISO function. And this is a standard ISO formatted string. So we should be able to just parse this into a new date. And then we can format it with the hour and the minute. And let's throw in the AM and PM right there. 1 p.m. We'll do the same for the end time. Let's copy this. And we'll use end date time. And there we go. Now this is getting a little messy. Usually for lists like this, I like to come down and just define a new meeting component. This is going to take in a meeting, and it's going to return all this code right here. And then we're going to render meeting, passing in the meeting. So now we have this component right here. We can actually move this code that parses the start date time into a start date time. Same with end date time. And now we can just pass that into format, start date time, and end date time. Okay, so we have our little meeting component. Let's go ahead and give this a key of meeting.id. And now let's make the rest of this actually dynamic. So we already have a selected day piece of React state. Let's go ahead and render this using format, selected day. And this is going to be the month, the day, and the year. All right, May 11th, May 12th, pretty easy. We can also update this property using format, YYYY, MMDD, so that that attribute is correct. We see it updating right there. And now we want to filter these meetings based on whether they're in the current day. So for each meeting, we're going to use isSameDay to check if the meeting's start date time is in the same day as the selected day. Now this is a string, so we're going to go ahead and parse ISO this. And I actually made a little mistake down here. We don't need to give this a new date. Parse ISO does that for us. Okay, so we don't see our meeting anymore. Let's come take a look. It's currently in January. Let's go ahead and put it on May 21st. And there we go. We see it show up for the 21st, and that's pretty cool. Now we could go ahead, pull this out into a variable, call it selected day meetings. Selected day meetings. And if selected day meetings dot length is greater than 0, then we'll render this. Otherwise, no meetings for today. Pretty cool. All right, finally, let's add a little blue dot to a day if there are meetings on it. So back up here where we're iterating over all of our days, I just want to come right here and do something like width 1, height 1, background, sky 500, rounded full. And let's go ahead and center this and add margin top of 1. We'll just use that to indicate if a day has meetings. So we can write something similar. We'll check our meetings array and call .sum. This will return true if for some meeting, the meeting is on the same day as the day we're iterating over. So meeting.startDateTime and the current day. And again, we'll go ahead and use parse ISO. So if this is true, let's go ahead and render this dot. Look at that. We see a meeting on the 21st. This is cool, but it's adding some height to the row. So let's wrap this in a div with width 1, height 1. We can put the MX auto here and the margin top. And then we can take these off of the dot itself. So now we've got our dot. Let's go ahead and drop this padding just a little bit. And then I'll just come up here, paste a few more meetings in, and check it out. Pretty cool. Dots are showing up on the days with meetings. Everything's working. Again, if we wanted to change this, we could get rid of start a week here. I have a little bit of a cleaner UI. And I just love how this came together. In my project, I kind of extended it even further on another project I was working and started animating these things. I'm also working on tying the slug of the current month or the selected day to the URL so you can link to a month or a day, see your meetings, all that good stuff. And we just used a few low-level libraries to achieve this. So I personally felt this was a really successful little spiking session for me over the weekend. Again, this library becomes very intuitive once you start using it. And if you've never used date-fns before, definitely check it out. I'll put a link to the documentation page in the description. I'll also link to Tailwind UI so you can check that out. They give you some preview components so you can see kind of what they give you and what it looks like. It's basically the experience we just went through. You kind of copy and paste and then layer in the functionality. I use a lot in my own projects, so definitely give it a look if you haven't already. Otherwise, I think I will be making a video in the future on how to animate this or to tie it to the URL. There's lots of ways I can go with this, but I look forward to hearing what you think about it. If you have any ideas for where we should go next, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.